Welcome to Burnt Bridge. I'm your host, Bridget, of course, and we're back. We had a Burnt Bridge bye week last week, and we'll talk about why that is in just a second. But first, please, if you haven't, please subscribe. Any interaction really helps, like, so much, like, more than you know. Also, we have merch in the bio, so I just feel like I should tell you guys that, and, you know, if you care at all, and if you don't want me to die, you know, just, like, take a look at those things. But, more importantly, let's do our sober shout-outs. Today, we are shouting out Lauren, who had 9 months on September 7th. There we go. Congratulations, Lauren. 9 months is a whole baby. Cameron has 7 months on September 16th, which is tomorrow when we're recording this. Congratulations, Cameron. And Maggie has 4 months on September 21st. Congratulations, Maggie. And a special shout out to friend of the pod, Shay, for 5 years of sobriety. Absolutely incredible. We're happy you're here, Shay. So let's get into it. I last weekend went to Dallas to have kind of a family weekend with my family. It was like the one time this year that my whole immediate family was going to be together, and my boyfriend came up to meet the rest of my family, which was like so sweet and so cute. And I wanted to talk about that because I used to be obviously the drunkest at family events. And now, this weekend was the first time I was the only sober one, which is confusing because for a few years, certain members of my family would remain sober in solidarity, but at this point, I'm totally fine being around it. And so everyone was drinking, some more than others, and it was all great. Now, what you should know is we do something called Family Olympics, where we play a multitude of games, and, you know, whoever wins the game, we get a tally for them, and at the end of the weekend, whoever's won the most games wins Family Olympics. They get a medal. They get to keep it for the year until the next Family Olympics. Now, something you should know about me is I'm not good at a lot of things. I'm good at very specific niche things that aren't usually, you can't really, like, put them in game format, like, unless it's Pictionary, or that's basically it. I'm not great at games. I'm not great at coordinated things. Anyways, doesn't matter because I won Family Olympics. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And honestly, a lot of people are going to say, Bridget, was your boyfriend your good luck charm? And I'm going to say, no. Honestly, it's because I'm sober. And that's huge because for the first few years, when I was trying to get sober and when I got sober, it was very hard to be around my family because I had so much fun drinking with them. Like, it was my favorite thing to do, like, was get drunk with my family and talk about everything bad that ever happened to us. And so I would go home and I would just feel like something was missing. And this weekend, I had such a wonderful time, like, and honestly, being able to be fully present the entire time is so precious when, like, things change. Like, there's 2 new babies in the family, you know, people are getting older. Like, you just never know how many of these you're going to get in life, and how many of those did I waste by being hammered the whole time? How many of those moments did I miss because I was drunk off my ass? You know, I thought I was having fun with my family, but I was missing a lot of it because of that. So to be able to go absolutely destroy at Family Olympics and just be present and be there with them, and then, like, bring home this person that I like, love, and actually was, like, sober enough to, like, make a good decision about who I'm dating too, like, and everybody liked that person. Crazy. It never happened to me before. We discussed a lot about the other people I brought home and how they perhaps were not the best. And that's on alcoholism as well. Anyways, moral of the story is it was an incredible weekend, and literally every piece of it that was incredible is due 100% in part because I'm sober now. So shout out to Sobriety for that, to be honest. And much needed after a week of just absolutely fucking horror going on in the world. It's nice to have these beautiful little moments in your smaller circles with the people that you love. And I think that's beautiful. But today we're going to talk about, our topic of the day is, what would I recommend for the first 7 days of sobriety? So I've been thinking a lot about what, if I could do things over again, and all the times that I got sober and all the times that I relapsed, what worked and what didn't work in the first 7 days. Because I remember so many times thinking like, I want to get sober, but I literally wouldn't even know where to begin because every single day of my life I get drunk. So what do I even do if I'm not doing that? I don't know how to start. And obviously there's some precursors here. And what I'll say is, if you are in a place in your addiction where withdrawal is happening, I will always, like, it is dangerous, it is lethal. Absolutely do a medical detox, like, at all costs if you can. Of course, like, the number one best thing that anyone could do is go to rehab, but that takes insurance. We don't all have access to that. But there's also medically assisted detox. There's that, a lot of insurances will cover. And even if not, like, having a doctor of some sort oversee the withdrawal process is imperative because it's super dangerous. So that's my disclaimer there. But as far as like things that you can actively do, if we're not going to treatment, what are some things we can do in that first week or the first week out of treatment? This can also be applicable for. So my biggest recommendations are actually always going to be kind of in line with the 3 sides of the AA triangle. So those are community, service, and, what do they call the other one? No one come for me, but I think it's like program or something like that. But basically it's about like taking personal inventory, like doing work on yourself. Is that right? Hold on, let's give it a Goog. Everybody calm down for 1 second. The 3 sides of the AA triangle. Okay, recovery. That's what it was. Recovery, program, same thing. I was right. Everyone else was wrong. Amazing. So in terms of, unity, I'm going to say community, because I think that is, like, we are so isolated in our addiction. It's a disease of isolation. We don't want anyone to know how much we're doing it. No one gets it. No one fucking understands, all that whole narrative. First of all, it isn't true. And if you go to an AA meeting, whether you like AA or not, what you will find is other people who get it more than you could ever imagine. Like, they see your story and oftentimes raise you some more horror, honestly. That's the best part of meetings for me, was like, I walked in thinking, oh my God, these people are going to judge me. And I left with a sense of like, holy shit, I'm not actually, like, I'm so not alone in what I'm going through. And in fact, like, there's a lot of cases worse than mine, and I didn't even know people like me existed. And that feeling, after feeling so isolated and alone for so long, is such a breath of fresh air, and just like a reminder that my brain is truly trying to kill me at all times by making me feel like I'm the worst person on earth. My situation is the worst thing it could possibly be. All of those delusional lies that my brain wants to tell me, those can be remedied by community. And obviously, like, you want to reach out to your friends and your family and the people that love you and let them know what you're going through. But sometimes, like, they don't get it. And sometimes the only thing that really can help is talking to someone who does get it. So this can look like a million things. There's a ton of different types of meetings online. Like, there's AA, there's Smart Recovery, there's Dharma, there's, I recommend like looking into all those things, seeing what aligns with you, and then giving them a real try. Like, I went to probably 3 different types of AA meetings before I ever felt like it was something I could relate to. Because I'll be honest, the first one I went to was in Waxahachie, Texas, and everyone was above the age of 70. And I did feel like a spry young chap when I was in there, but I also did not feel that I related to anyone because they lived on farms and were old. And I simply did not align with either of those things. But there's young people's meetings, there's women's meetings, there's men's meetings, there's big book studies, there's discussion meetings, there's like all these different types of meetings. So you can find one that aligns with you, and that's only within AA. There's same thing across these other programs as well. So there are plenty of free resources out there with people waiting and wanting to help, which brings me to my next part, which is the service section of the triangle, which, you know, a lot of times people think of service and they're like, what, do I need to go to a food bank? And it's like, you can do that for sure. And like, I bet that'd be really good of you to do, but it can also mean reaching out to someone in your life who you know is struggling. Now, when we're in our addiction, we often think I'm struggling the worst out of everyone and no one fucking gets how hard this is for me. And that's a very real feeling, and I felt it many a time. However, the number one thing that gets me out of that feeling is calling someone who I know is like going through a breakup or dealing with their own shit and being like, tell me about you. What's going on with you? Let's talk about you for a second. Because all I fucking do 24/7 is think about me and what's going on with me and my anxiety. Guess what anxiety is? Just another version of me thinking about me and how things are going to end up for me. And if everybody likes me, shut the fuck up for 2 seconds. Stop thinking about yourself. Sorry, that was mean. That was me talking to me. But it actually does fucking help. It really helps to be like, oh, right, other people exist on this earth and have problems. And when I'm talking to them about their problems, I'm not so wrapped up in my own problems. Service can also look like, literally can look like the literal thing of like picking up trash, feeling like a useful human being on this earth, like is in any way is so helpful to get out of the feeling of uselessness and despair that we often feel coming out of our addiction. So service can look like a lot of different things. It can look like finding people from that community, talking to them about your stuff, and then being like, hey, what's going on with you? Someone said to me in rehab once, when's the last time you called your mom just to ask her how she's doing? And like to a normie, that might sound like, hey, you fucking asshole, why haven't you been doing that? But when you're dealing with addiction, phone calls with family are usually gonna be about the addiction piece or like what I'm struggling with, whatever. Like I hadn't called my mom just to be like, how are you doing in so long? And to do that took, like, I remember the first time I did it, she was like, oh, is everything okay? And I was like, yes, everything's fine. I just wanted to know how you're doing. Like, that's crazy. And that's something that's like really easy. Just call a family member or friend and ask them how they're doing, and they'll probably be really surprised and happy to hear that from you. And this is not to say that like we are selfish or whatever. It is, the disease takes over in such an insidious way that it is impossible to not be selfish because you're actively fighting for your life. Unfortunately, the remedy to that is taking action, which sometimes is the hardest thing. It feels like the hardest thing you could do, but it unfortunately is the remedy. So it's not necessarily that we're selfish, bad people. It's like the disease is designed to create us, to make us behave in a way that appears to be very selfish, but is simply kind of survival at a certain point. Okay, so we've done community, we've done service, and then the other piece is recovery. So this is gonna look like self-care. This is gonna look like absolutely, if you can, get into therapy. If you've got insurance, get into therapy. If you don't, look some things up, or start journaling. Journaling is huge, and it feels like the pen is 100,000 pounds, but getting the thoughts out of your head and onto paper can sometimes clear a path for more positive thoughts to appear in your head. And just do it. When it feels unnatural, when it feels hard and terrible, just do it anyways. All of these things are going to feel terrible at first. I'll be so for real with you. But it's the thing of like just doing it anyways that's going to make them not feel terrible anymore, and that's going to allow them to be helpful for you. If you look at all these things and you say, this isn't going to fucking work, whatever, then it's probably going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because I don't know how many times I said, I wrote a journal entry and I don't feel any fucking better, so I'm not doing journaling anymore. And it's like, right, but I do think we're going to have to put some effort in. That's all this is just a mammoth level of effort that feels terrible at your worst time, but unfortunately, like, it is the thing that's going to make things better, and they will get better, like, very quickly, honestly, if you put that effort in. What prolongs it is the minute you give up the effort, and then the thoughts come back, and then the relapses happen, and you have to start over, and then really we've taken much more time than we would have if we just did the overhead of effort up front, if that makes sense. So the recovery element can also look like self-care. My recommendation is always go back to the things that you did as a child, that you loved to do as a child. For me, that was art. It was music. It was playing the guitar. I remember the first time I picked up a guitar when I got sober. It was like, I was like, God, music is boring now. And I don't know when that happened, but it fucking happened. And I hate this shit. And that's going to be called anhedonia. And I've talked about it on here before, but it's an important one to talk about. Anhedonia is the phenomenon that happens in a lot of things, but also when you first get sober from a substance. It's your brain is so used to the increased dopamine levels that are produced by that substance that when you remove that, you are completely depleted of dopamine. So the things that used to bring you happiness and fun and joy don't anymore until those like chemicals kind of level out. So when things aren't fun, don't freak out, because that's temporary, and that's literally like a chemical thing that's happening in your brain. And it will pass. You just have to keep doing the things. Like, that's unfortunately, none of these things are immediate remedies to the way that you're feeling, but it's because we did this thing that robbed us of feeling for so long that sometimes like it's going to take a little bit of time to get those things back. And the other thing that I'll say about this whole thing is, like, I think I had this expectation of I'm supposed to get sober, my life's supposed to get better. And so when things were like even harder at first, I was like, why would I fucking do this? This is harder than the other thing, than actively ruining my life. It's like, this is harder. Why am I going to fucking do it? And the reality is, it is going to be hard. And I think we just have to be realistic about that. It is going to be hard. So when it feels hard, don't feel like you're doing something wrong. You're not. It's just going to be hard for a second. But then, like, you just have to get through that little period of hardness, and then things get even better than they were before. And that's like, I used to think people were so full of shit when they said that to me. I was like, I actually really enjoyed the time in my life where I could drink normally and everything was fine. Like, I don't think it'll ever get better than that. Guys, might I remind you, I won Family Olympics. Like, things genuinely, and I know that sounds like so stupid, but also I won Family Olympics with the best relationship of my life, with the best job of my life, with the best, like, living situation of my life, with the best car I've ever had, with, like, and I'm, like, none of those things really matter, but in the grand scheme of things, like, the happiness I have is so much more real, long-lasting, sustainable than I ever had before, ever had when I was drinking normally. Like, that's just the big facts of it. I'm able to show up better in my relationships, in my friendships, in my professional life, to myself. Everything is so much fucking better than it ever was before. Not when things were bad. Of course they're better than when things were bad. But even before that, like, worlds better, I'm talking. So it's an acute amount of time where things are even harder to get you to a sustainably long amount of time where things are sustainably better, if that makes sense. And so I think like not having the expectation that these things are going to change overnight and that I'm going to feel better overnight. We're so used to that quick fix. That's what substances and alcohol did for us is, you know, I don't feel good. Let me do this thing and it'll make me feel better for a little bit. So getting out of that mentality is hard. It's tricky, but you have to break the cycle at some point. It may as well be today. It's hard to say that you'll ever feel ready. I've talked about this before too, but I think a lot of people say you have to want to get sober to get sober. And that's true to an extent. You have to, I think, be in a place of desperation to want or to be willing to do the things I've discussed. But I didn't want to be sober ever. Like when I was getting sober, I was like, I just don't want to keep living this way, but I want some secret third option. I don't want to get sober. That's fucking terrible. Like I've never experienced that before and I'm not really wanting to. And then I got sober and it was fucking terrible and hard at first. And then things started to get better. And then I wanted to stay sober. So if you're like in a place where you're like, I would really love to figure out a way to keep drinking and not ruin my life. Unfortunately, I do feel that you'll find that that's impossible. But just because you don't necessarily like long for a forever sober life doesn't mean that you can't get sober. I think that that's kind of a harmful ideology to spread because to be honest with you, I didn't want to be sober. Now I want to be sober more than anything in the world. And I do things at all times to keep me in a place of wanting it and a lifestyle that allows me to continue to be sober. So in summary of what I've just covered, community for yourself to not feel alone, but also for accountability's sake, it's helpful to have someone who gets it and is not coming from a place of judgment to like reach out to you and be like, hey, how are you doing? Because when my mom was like, hey, how's it going? I was like, hey, stop checking in on me. Like, fucking mind your business. But when someone who understood that I could be real with, that it's like, I'm still sober, but I want to fucking drink so badly. If I said that to my mom, she'd be like, well, okay, don't, but someone who gets it will have actual suggestions and I won't feel so judged by their interest in my well-being, if that makes sense. Service. So this is anything that gets you outside of your own mind. So utilizing helping other people, honestly, as a means to distract from self. I am my problem. My brain is my problem. If I can find a way to focus on someone else, that is a time period where I'm not focused on myself, and that is a good thing. And then it's like you're talking to someone for an hour, and an hour goes by, and you've got another hour sober. Because that first day and those first few days, every hour can feel like many hours, and I fully understand and get that. But so these distractions, be it helping someone else, doing some self-care, going back to the hobbies that you loved as a kid, any little ways that you can show up for yourself but not be so in your own head, that helps that time pass quicker, and the more time that passes, the stronger you feel. So connection, service, and recovery. That goes back to the self-care of it all. And self-care doesn't always just look like face masks and whatever. It's like any way that you can honor yourself. Sometimes I did some harm reduction things, like buying myself things. A lot of sugar was had, I'll be honest. But little ways that I can say, like, hey, I made it to 4 p.m. Let me go to walk around Target for a second, or get a coffee, or whatever. I like to incentivize myself to do those like little milestones because I fucking deserve it. And honestly, I'm 3.5 years in and I still do that. Let me talk. Actually, I am going to talk about this. quick aside, the state of Texas has taken it upon themselves to ban vapes except for one brand, which is Ass. And I'll come on the record and say, 50 Bar, if you're watching, grow up. Grow up and do better at vapes. I told myself when I was 1 year sober I was going to stop vaping. It's 3.5 years, and I have not. And you know what? I'm not gonna. I'm not going to, because in my mind at this point at least, that is a tool that's keeping me sober, and I'm so sorry, but that's harm reduction, baby, and I'm all for it. I just spent half my fucking paycheck. No, that's an exaggeration. I bought 4. I bought 4 vapes because that's genuinely all I could afford. But I bought 4, and I'm stacked up, and they better bring my vapes back. Literally talked about it at work today. I will talk to anyone who will listen about my vapes. But moral of the story is, do what you have to do. If it's buying something, go into a little debt. I mean, I'll say it. Don't go crazy, because I went crazy, and why do you think I have this podcast? I'm trying to get out of the hole I've dug myself. And also because I love talking about sobriety, of course. Having a strict schedule, that's another thing. Have something every hour to look forward to. I can't get drunk at 3 p.m. because I'm doing this. I can't get drunk at 4 p.m. because I'm doing this. Then I'm going to watch this movie. That's my favorite movie, and it's my comfort movie. Then I'm going to cook this meal. That is my favorite meal. It's my comfort meal. You know, have a check-in with a person or an activity to do. For the first 7 days, having those days locked and loaded with activities and distractions is huge. And then you'll get to the end of the 7 days and you'll look back and things will feel a lot more manageable and a lot easier to deal with. It's just getting through those first few days. You got to keep yourself busy. You can't give yourself time to convince yourself it's a good idea to drink. That is my advice. And that's the first week of sobriety. I mean, you know, there's plenty of other things. Honestly, if you're on TikTok, which you should be, and you should follow me on it, just go search, you know, sober ideas, people talking about sobriety. Like, make sure that the media you're being fed is in alignment with your goals, if only for that 7 days. Like, I remember watching a show when I first got sober, and of all things, they were drinking a Michelob Ultra. And I said to myself, that looks like the way I describe what being an active addiction is like to a normie is when you have been like on a hot day and you've walked like 4 miles and you are so fucking parched that when you put a water bottle up to your mouth, like you cannot stop yourself from just being like slurping the whole thing down, and it almost feels like animalistic. That is what I wanted to do to that motherfucking Michelob Ultra on my screen. And I don't even like a Michelob Ultra, but like the way that I was salivating over it, and it was just accident. Like I was watching like just a sitcom, and someone was drinking a Michelob, and I almost lost it. So making sure that the media I'm consuming is helpful to my cause and not gonna harm it is also huge, because we live in a world where like we're getting hit from all angles with all sorts of influences that we don't even fucking acknowledge are there in this capitalistic hellscape that we live in on a daily basis. Yeah, and I think that's what I have to say about that. And now, can you do it? Yeah. Yay! Let's go into our segments. Okay, so a rock bottom and pink cloud of the week. My rock bottom of this week is I'm really busy at work and I just don't want to be. I just don't want to. I have to like work really hard, and then I like work really hard like and it just feels like I'm working really hard like all the time. Like even when I'm not working, I'm working, and it's like, oh, okay. But there have been far worse problems in my life, so if that's my rock bottom of the week, I will fucking take it. Oh God, I'm also gonna say the state of the world. I gotta just like make a disclaimer that my rock bottom's always probably gonna be the state of the world, so that it doesn't seem like I'm like, oh, the world's falling apart and I have to work really hard. Disclaimer is always gonna be rock bottom from now on, so don't say I didn't say it. The state of the world is, of course, my rock bottom. Everybody get your fucking shit together. But let's talk about my pink cloud. My pink cloud is, I really just feel so, like, I just feel like my cup is so full from being with my family, and I just love those bitches. I mean, truly, through and through. I'm going to get my mom on the pod. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm going to get her on the pod. She's going to tell some stories, baby. But, yeah, being with them is, like, genuinely the best thing in the world, and I love them. What I'm closing the tab on, this is something I've been struggling with lately, and I'll say this. I'm a big people pleaser. I want everyone to think that I'm really nice and great, and so I've always said, like, I value kindness sometimes a little more than honesty, which is not great, but I'm just not the friend that you go to if you need someone to tell you straight up if you look fat in your outfit. Like, I'm just not the one. I'm gonna say, oh, maybe we could do like another outfit, but I'll never be like, no, that looks terrible on you, take it off. Like, I'm just not doing it. But I've found that sometimes I think actually hard truths are kinder than soft lies, or omissions when it comes to like my close relationships. So, you know, I have a situation in my life where I have a friend who is doing something that I very much think is going to be harmful in the end. And I've been going back and forth on like, do I just say, you know, I support you, whatever you're doing, yay, because that's the easier thing to do and because I know that's what they want me to say? Or is it being a better friend for me to be like, hey, I just want you to know, this is what I'm seeing from the outside. I'm of course going to support you no matter what, but I just feel like it's my responsibility as your friend to be honest with you about what I'm seeing about the situation and how I don't necessarily think it's the best for you. And it's all like convoluted and nuanced, but the moral of the story is I think that I'm closing the tab on taking the easier route in terms of worrying that people are going to be mad at me if I say the truth, honestly. And I'm also closing the tab on, my therapist told me this one, so this is some Hannah T. Shout out Hannah if you're watching. Sorry about HIPAA. I don't think it works that way though. Anyways, Hannah told me, she was like, you need to give people an opportunity to be there for you. She was like, I think you try to make yourself a value in other people's lives so much that you never want to ask for anything from anyone because in your addiction you were so needy that you want to completely overcompensate for that and never make anyone do anything for you. And I was like, period girl. So true. But she was like, a lot of people want the opportunity to show up for you, and you're not giving them that opportunity at risk of being needy. And I know Radu's sitting there and he's like, you're needy to me, bitch. And we all appreciate you. Everyone clap for Radu. He's the best. So closing the tab on being a lying ass bitch and not allowing anyone to ever help me with anything ever. Yeah, and that's what I'm going to say about that. What else do we have? Did I have anything else to say? Did I cover everything?
I think you covered everything today.
Oh my God. Period. Well, thank you guys for watching. And also, you know, upcoming things, just some housekeeping for the pod. Let us know what topics you want us to cover on Sober Sleepovers, because I think we're going to be doing some more of those. I have a really exciting guest that's going to be coming in the next few weeks. I'm not sure exactly when, but we're going to be doing some more of these and potentially some more like lifestyle stuff. So, you know, obviously, like I said, subscribe and interact and let me know what topics you want us to talk about moving forward. And yeah, that's it. And we love you and have a great week, I guess. Okay, bye.